Okay, hello everybody to the fourth episode of the Logistics Lounge podcast. Today with Sam Burditt, one of the founders from Arcsoft. And today we are discussing revolutionizing manufacturing and distribution and AI-driven ERP approach. So I'm really looking forward to it. What we include this time is a small live demo. Sam, thanks for joining us. Thanks for presenting the system and giving us some background.
Awesome. Thanks so much for the intro there, Joe. Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm one of the founders of Arcflow, and we are an AI-focused ERP company. And essentially what we're trying to do is bring modern technology into a fairly dormant software industry. And we see there being a lot of opportunity for manufacturing software really to be brought into the modern age.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, Sam and I know us now since, what is it, 4 months, 5 months, I think.
Thanks.
So we connected on LinkedIn. I had the opportunity to see the system in action. They took the time out to show me the system, demoed me to the system. It's quite exciting. So I'm really happy to show now our base what the system really can do. So Sam, what is your background more or less, and what is your role as a co-founder at Arcflow?
So I actually come from a bit of an electromechanical engineering background. And basically, through my studies and my early working career, I was exposed to quite a lot of manufacturing. And I think through this, I saw that you could really see some manufacturers had their operations down to a T, but I didn't understand at the time why they were so well run. And looking back now, I can start to see that manufacturing distribution is based on systems and structures. And there's just so many manufacturers out there who struggle to get those systems and structures down properly. And some of these are inside software, and some of them are about the way you just run your business in general. So I grew up, kind of learning about these systems both from my education and from my post-education early work life.
That's quite interesting. Now, I don't want to say I'm a senior in the industry, but at least I'm not a youngster anymore. So I agree with you. We have a lot of legacy systems that I think a lot of people are unaware or possibly even scared to replace or at least to update to newer versions. And I think that is a really interesting point to what we will come a little later in the session, how you guys can support there. And that is, as well as I say, what excited me about this product, about the solution Sam and team have developed. So we talked a little bit about it, but give us another brief overview about Arcflow, your mission to enhance manufacturing, distribution, and especially your AI-driven portion of the system.
For sure. So I think I should start at the beginning. And like all good software, we are born out of necessity. So one of our co-founders, Andre Stemmet, he's really the brains behind the original system, which kind of spurred the creation of Arcflow. And while working alongside his father in one of South Africa's biggest solar equipment manufacturers, he kind of witnessed firsthand like what happens with small and medium manufacturers, that they're just not being serviced properly when it comes to ERP software. And when he was working alongside his father, he saw that there were two paths that they went down when trying to install an ERP system. And these are very common across the SMB space. So they initially started by looking at the industry leaders. They started to reach out to consultants who represented SAP, Infor, Oracle. And what they really found was that just the costs and the associated timeline were just not feasible for a business of their size. It was just too big a project to take on. It was too expensive. It impacted cash flow too heavily. So then they did what every manufacturer and distributor does. They then started to look at systems that are more cost effective. So they started reaching out to consultants who represented these almost off-the-shelf software solutions. And with these systems, they ran into the classic issues. So the first being that most of the consultants didn't truly understand the software that they were representing. So a lot of these guys were just trained up on how to, do the installation over a couple of weeks during a short course, but then they never truly understanding how the software worked itself. The other problem was that the software provider almost wanted nothing to do with the implementation. And then finally, the third issue here is that it's very difficult to discern in these situations if the customer, the consultant, or the software provider is responsible for each issue. So you have all three parties almost misaligned in what they're trying to do. So it was clear from this whole situation that he experienced that there was a break in this method. And our solution was to reimagine how the small and medium businesses should experience the ERP journey. So we broke this down into two significant changes, being both on the software side and being on the service delivery. So when it came to making our ERP, we studied a lot of consumer-based software products. And we realized that most enterprise software solutions fall into the same trap where they make everything incredibly complicated and to require a significant amount of training. We noted that the more intuitive the system, the easier the user gets up to speed, the quicker the business starts to benefit from its use. So what we really focused on was intuitive user interfaces. We looked at things like data-rich tables, and then we also started to look at simple automations that just remove redundancy from these enterprise solutions. Then we switched to the server side and we targeted two main pain points, these being the onboarding journey and the support. So unlike most ERPs in this category, we are fully involved in the onboarding journey. And we do this so we can understand exactly what's going on inside the business during the implementation phase. And implementations is already where ERPs fail. So 75% of failures in the ERP space happen at the implementation phase and can be the result of, a hangover from a terrible implementation, as we like to refer to it. So something small can happen during implementation, but you only pay the price later on. Uh, we wanted to take this kind of a step further, and we started focusing on the onboarding journey itself and said, how can we digitize this? How can we build a product around it? So over the last couple of months, we've actually built out a digital onboarding platform, which we believe is the first of its kind in this space. And what this does is it allows both the customer, ourselves, and any consultant that's involved to be able to understand exactly what's going on across the entire operation. So instead of having email chains and data repositories, what we do instead is we have a centralized hub with all the information about what's going on. And then finally, the last thing we attacked was support. So we realized that support tickets and email correspondence basically don't work in this industry where hours of downtime can cost tens of thousands of dollars. So what we did is we focused on providing live chat support that goes directly to our engineering team. And what this really does is it cuts down the time it takes for support issues to be resolved. And it also means that we turn around small issues very quickly, allowing our customers not to experience significant downtime. So that's kind of where our focus has been while building out this product.
That sounds quite interesting. And even I learned something new with your digital onboarding center. I'm excited to hear about more of that. I think it's one of a kind. At least I have not heard about it. So the next good step. um,
Exactly, yeah.
interesting topic. You mentioned South Africa. So I know that your company based in Great Britain, but you do a lot of the work in South Africa, right? I possibly can answer why. I mean, I know a big European OEM that has an IT hub down in South Africa. Um, it's not only because of the nice people and the nice weather. I think you have a lot of good resources there as well, right?
Exactly, yeah. So we are currently based out of the UK. That's where our business is operated out of. But we also have a subdivision that's based out of Cape Town, South Africa. So we have customers both in Africa and more concentrated into the southern part of Africa. We have customer bases across the UK and Europe. And right now we are rolling out into the US, where it's kind of our relationship came from. So we'll be expanding, having a third office in the US, which we'll be spinning up. But right now, those are our two kind of focus areas are. And I think that South Africa offers a unique opportunity in the sense that by having a part of our employee base here, we have access to really high quality engineering staff who are multidisciplined. We're kind of on the forefront of a lot of the AI that's going on in the world. And it's at a rate that is, very digestible for the entire market, whereas consultancy in Europe and the US can, become very expensive when you start to kind of accrue massive time.
Yeah, I can second that. I always had really good relationships and really good experience with working with South African team members and co-workers. So that is, as I say, beside I think a really nice area and place in the world, another plus for that area. um,
Yeah, definitely.
so let's talk about a little bit, or let's explore the inceptions of Arcflow and the specific problem it aims to address for small and medium-sized business. I mean, you already mentioned it. One thing, and possibly let's start with that, integration. integration is always not always, but quite frequently a bigger hurdle for a lot of people, a quite time consuming and very expensive task. So let us know a little bit what you guys are do different or even better.
Sure. So I think from our side, when it comes to the implementation, what we really try to focus in on is identifying the entire scope of the project. So what we do is when we sit down, we try to intrinsically understand that business. And because we have an understanding of how our software works, we have a unique perspective that we can start to see where there are, synergies between what the business is already doing and what our software is going to do. And we can identify hurdles straight away. So what's difficult for most third-party consultants who are representing ERPs holistically is that they aren't involved in the building of those ERPs. They don't understand the infrastructure that goes into them. So when they run into an issue, it sometimes can be something that's very easy to overcome with a little bit of insider knowledge. So by using our own engineering team and our own developers when it comes to the implementation, we believe that we have a unique perspective where a small issue will arise, we'll find a fix for it, and we'll be able to deploy and move ahead with that fix very quickly. So something that would normally require deep customization for us can be, a simple alteration to the actual source code itself or to that specific version of the software that the user is getting.
Yeah, I think that is a topic we really need to, let's name it, to sell, right? Um, as we know, with the big implementations, it can take months to go to one sprint cycle to get even the smallest update into, let's name it, a big system. I think we all know
Yeah.
them. Other interesting point, support. Let us know a little bit about the live chat support. How is that set up? And what is really interesting, what you mentioned, if I would use it, I would come directly to an engineer, to a developer, not first to a salesperson. Nothing wrong with a salesperson, but most likely they will not help me with technical problems.
Exactly, yeah. So, I mean, our approach is slightly unique, and I think we've all been there. You've got an issue with the software system you're using. You send off an email and you get a support ticket. They reply in a couple of days' time, and you're going back and forth trying to explain your problem. And as a young team, we had all just kind of said that it's just not an acceptable way when this is such a business critical part of your operation. So we went back to the wheel and we said back to the designing the wheel and we said, how do we approach this so that it's faster, it's easier to solve the problem, and the customer feels like they're actually being paid attention to? So what we did is we went and built in a live support feature. And what this is like a live chat that connects directly to our engineering team. But it actually is a little bit more complicated than that because what it also does is it allows you to share your screen directly with your engineer. So they can view your ERP from your perspective and they can't see anything else on your computer. It's just the ERP that they get access to and they can guide you around and talk to you. So it's almost as if you've got something like Microsoft Teams built directly into your software. You don't have to go and set up a meeting. It's all there in the software. You can start it straight away. An engineer hops on, they have a conversation with you. You can share your screen. You can start an audio call. And in that way, we really accelerate the time it takes from I have an issue to here's the fix or here's the solution or this is how long it's going to take. So not every problem can be solved in minutes, but we'll be able to at least communicate with you, okay, this is an issue on our side or this is an issue on your side and this is the fix and this is how long it's going to take. And just with that ability to see or understand what's going on means most customers walk away far more satisfied because they're not sitting in the dark wondering, when is my system going to be up and running or when am I going to be back to full operations?
That makes totally sense, as I believe sometimes it's not really the issue, but the problem is as well training. People are not completely trained, forgot some part of the training, so your engineers are more or less quickly able to help and support, and you can close the ticket. And as well as gives the user, the end user, quite a good feeling about the system and is not building up negative energy. So I like
Exactly. I think you raise a really good point as well. We're seeing training, people are looking for kind of like short form content where it comes to training. Most people don't want to open up a training manual anymore. They would way rather hop on a chat, ask a quick question, get a quick reply, and move on. And then they never come back and repeat that issue again. So from our side, it's a small resource sacrifice to almost allow that training through the live chat, but it means that people are far more up to speed. They're using the system properly. And then the other advantage for us, which we've seen over the last couple of months especially, is as users start to come back with specific issues or misunderstanding, our development team basically notes that down, and then they go back and they revisit it. And they say, why is the user not understanding? Or why is this not working the way it should be for that user? And it allows us to enhance our designs, enhance our workflows to better suit the end customer. So it's very much a two-way relationship in the sense of we're getting all this information back that we then go and we use to enhance the experience and make it just more intuitive.
That makes totally sense. As we name it in our logistics world, lesson learned. My
Yeah,
my old
exactly.
my old quality manager over said to me, Jens, it's absolutely fine to do a mistake, but mistakes should not have birthday. Then something is
Yes.
wrong. So that's
Yeah,
that really fits
exactly.
that. um, so I mean, if we talk ERP in a traditional role, right, in business operations, it's still in a lot of cases, especially if we talk small or medium businesses that I visit over the last 10 years here in the US, but I know it as well for my travels in Europe or worldwide. It's somewhere a small cabinet, a small server. So there a system is running since 20 years, 30 years. I saw it as well on the production floor with MES systems, dripped in oil. I mean,
Yeah.
fantastic hardware, still working after all that years. I really like that, but I would not say it's safe. And a lot of pressure these days are coming from the tier one, tier two suppliers that are quite frequently supplied from small, medium businesses. And later on, it goes exactly in the direction that you mentioned. It goes to OEM and it costs you tens thousands of dollars for a minute of downtime. I assume, no, I know you are running software as a service. So what is really needed on the end user side on one of your customer ends?
Sure. So from our side, we don't require anything on the customer's end. I mean, as long as they have an active internet connection, our software is designed to work across any device. So be it desktop, laptop, tablet, cell phone, we've got native apps that go into all. And I think really that was our focus, is that we're trying to move away from the need to have things like exactly what you're mentioning, built-in servers, or to have the infrastructure itself. We host it all in the cloud. We make it accessible from anywhere. And I think this is just the next natural progression in the ERP software space. The same way, how ERP really started was back in the 1960s. IBM built a version of an MRP system for basically a tractor manufacturer. And that first system all it was a digital version of Toyota's lean manufacturing method. And it progressed from there on these incredibly large computers into what became ERP. And now we're seeing ERP go into the cloud and start to integrate with things like AI. So there's just this natural progression because ERP is just such an important part of the manufacturing industry that it just progresses with the technology as it goes. And we're starting to move away from the need to have that physical infrastructure sitting inside your manufacturing plant. You should be able to access it from anywhere. It should be fully secure. It should be intelligent. So that's really where we see this industry moving.
That makes absolutely sense. And I mean, you brought an important topic. I think I mentioned nearly in every episode, the cloud. If I thinking back 15 years or something, even I was a little bit skeptical. I mean, we had our in-house servers, we had our data centers, everything running, everything fine. The cloud was coming up. Is it secure? Is it this? Is it that? Overall, these days we know, right? Most likely the cloud is more secure than your own data center because you have specialists that do nothing else besides providing you the service, and you can focus on building your product. And I think that is the same with warehouse management ERP these days. There are companies like you that do that for a living, and I can focus on my core business as Ada as an example, consulting and help people improving processes, helping guys like you implementing systems. Um, so I think that is a really important topic. And I think in the next, hopefully 12 months, but possibly more up to 5 years, it will become quite a standard and be accepted from people as well. And I mean, it's great to see that you are and your team pioneering to make that happen. So that's great. Mm, So how is the AI really enhancing the ERP functionalities? Give us one or two examples that you guys have, let's say, especially built into your system that really helps the user to make better decisions, possibly is doing decisions.
For sure. So I think we're still very early on in AI being integrated into ERP systems. But what's coming to the forefront across all of these AI softwares that we're seeing is that the one thing it is undoubtedly very good at is dealing with large data sets. So the ability to analyze and understand large data lakes or understand, forecasting and analytics, these are things that AI is intrinsically good at. And as it continues to progress, we'll see it continue to improve in these sections. So for us, our major concern is that the ERP is still the fundamental part of running your business, and we don't want to introduce any technology into that stack that is not 100% battle tested. So where we're really starting to use AI is in two major parts. We use it in a lot of the data analytics, for example, around supply KPIing or understanding data forecasting, for example. We'll use artificial intelligence to do predictive modeling, to analyze large data sets around, let's say, the ability for a supplier to supply you a certain type of SKU. What we won't do is start to make any sort of suggestive we won't provide any suggestive data without fully battle testing. That's what we're doing at the moment. So we're using data that we know is fully battle tested, we know works well, and we run that through our AI algorithm, and it'll provide forecasts that they can then use as a suggestive way to procure or manufacture. So that's how we were using it originally. How I see it expanding from there is I think artificial intelligence is going to become one of those tools that is used in almost every part of your ERP. It's going to be used to understand what does supply chain health look like? What do my suppliers look like in terms of their ability to deliver? Is that changing over time? I'll start to understand how well is my machinery running? When am I meant to be doing maintenance? All of these places have the opportunity to introduce AI and to raise flags and to kind of empower employees to do better work. But right now, I think we still are at the very early stages where we're trying to work out, what can be trusted and what can't, and what is actually going to make a meaningful difference to those manufacturers.
That makes sense. It's a little bit off topic, but I think it's important to know for a lot of people. You mentioned LLM, large language models. So how are you securing? Because I think it's a fear of a lot of people that, let's say, my data, right, is not used to guide possible other companies with my intellectual knowledge. So how you guys are securing that?
For sure. So all of our customers have their own data sets, which are completely fenced off to them, and all of the kind of artificial intelligence we're using and the machine learning that we're using is for proprietary, and it's also sectioned. So we don't expose, we don't intermix customer information. We train each of the models and then introduce their data as the kind of guiding data for their specific instance of the software. So there is no opportunity for data to be mixed in between each customer. There's no opportunity for anyone to kind of intercept that information. So we're not training it on your data. We're training it on its own training data. And then we're using your data to guide it and allow it to make decisions for you as a customer specifically, not for the broader ecosystem.
That's great. So I really appreciate that explanation, as I say, because a lot of people I think are not trained or don't have the knowledge built up now how the things are really working, right? Let's take ChatGTP, right? A great tool. I like it. I think a lot of people using it these days. Um, but I'm still not allowing open ChatGPT access in our company because I'm pretty sure people will put something in that should not be there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we are exactly what you mentioned. We're kind of at the early stage. We don't really know what's going to come down the road. And I mean, always being protective of your data, especially as a company, is important. Like you have to prioritize protecting that data set. So that's a major focus for us as well. And it's also why we're so apprehensive about just diving straight in and, kind of putting AI into every part of our platform, because we need to fully understand how is it going to function? What does it look like a year from now? What is the outcome going to be? Is it predictable? And those are really the things that we are working out at the moment. and focusing on kind of identifying where this can be rolled out initially and where it might be rolled out in a year's time or later than that.
Okay, let's see. Next question. So, let's talk about manufacturing module. I know that you have different modules in your system, right? One is a manufacturing model, more like an ERP MES system. Correct me if I say something wrong, please. You as a specialist, but how can you optimize production scheduling, track operation, and or integrate procurement with warehousing?
So exactly what you mentioned, we have our own MES system built into our ERP. And from our side, I think the part that makes us unique is because we're SME focused. What we try to do is we try to gather as much data as we can without requiring the SME to go and fetch that data. So it's small things like the ability to work out what the true landed cost is of a product, for example. So we have an understanding inside our manufacturing module of the route that each one of the products goes down. So, it's made up of its sub-assemblies, its items. We know which workstation it goes to. We understand the DNA of that product. And we use this DNA to build out the job cards that go into building out that final product. And what our system will do is it will intelligently track information about the job cards to understand how long does it take each time this runs. Is there a change in the amount of time it spends at each workstation? How much does it cost me to run that workstation, from things like labor costs, asset degradation in terms of the equipment used. Maybe there's an electricity cost associated with it. We track all of these intelligently, and then we use that to calculate upstream what the true cost is of building that product. So in the manufacturing module, our real focus is trying to gather as much information as we can so that the customer doesn't have to go and actually calculate it themselves. They can rely on us to work out how much did it cost for me to build this, who of my employees were involved, how long were they involved for, what equipment was being used. And with that information, they then start to be able to work out what is the true cost of producing this, and then they can better understand the profit margins that they're making. Around production scheduling, what this then does is if you have a true understanding of how long things should be taking you to make, it allows us to then do predictive scheduling. So you can say, okay, I know that this is going to spend 15 and a half minutes at workstation one, and it should take 14 minutes at the second workstation. Our system will then go and change the estimations to match what it's measured, and then it will be able to better predict. You're not just going, I think it'll take 20 minutes. The system knows it took 15 minutes and 32 seconds. So you get better understanding of what is your true capacity, not my estimated capacity. And with a lot of our customers, what we saw is they were working off, recordings of information they had taken 5 years prior. So they had recorded how long it took them to build this product 5 years ago. But they never went and updated it. They're always working off that same data set because it costs them money to go and measure it. With our system, it's real time. We're constantly tracking, are there changes in the manufacturing flow? Is there a reason that there's a bottleneck? We identify the bottleneck and we tell the customer, for some reason, this workstation is 5% slower. And then they have the opportunity to go and look into it and understand, maybe there's an issue with the machine. Maybe it's a change in workforce that needs better training. This data is all there. It just needs to be measured and then it can be improved. So I think our major focus across the manufacturing module was really kind of tracking and tracing how long everything takes, what goes into each of the steps, and then better understanding what the end product looks like. Then what we also do is all of our modules are interconnected. So we have almost an intelligent brain that interconnects sales, manufacturing, procurement, warehousing. So at any point in time when there is change, for example, you experience a black swan event and you suddenly sell 10 times more of a certain product than you normally would, the system will automatically go and check with warehousing to see if you have the raw stock on hand. It will notify your procurement team to go and start looking at procuring the correct amount of items. It will also look at your supplies and see which of your suppliers will be able to actually get it to you in the right amount of time. It will start to look at things like, if I start manufacturing now, how much capacity do I have? When is the due date? It will start considering all these things that were normally the responsibility of a manufacturing manager. The system starts to do some of that heavy lifting for them. And it's really good at doing it simply because it's a large data set that it really has access to. It can go and quickly scan everything instead of having to look through hundreds of different Excel spreadsheets. And it tells your manufacturing manager, this is what you should be doing. This is the order in which you should be doing it. So that was really kind of our focus around the manufacturing module.
Yeah, that's great. Like you say, we capture a lot of data since years, right? But
Yeah.
a lot of systems or companies have never done a lot with the data. I mean, they are really good examples, not fitting now for our topic, but as an example, Facebook, that is collecting a lot of data, but they are doing a lot of data and do a lot with it because they're making money with it to show us things that we possibly don't want to see, but they believe we should buy. So it's great. It's great for marketing. And the data collection, one of the important topics, and I know you guys are quite good as well, is first collect information, second prepare or judge information. And I think then one of the most important topics, without letting one or two out, is showing information. I mean, what are we doing with this information, right? If there's a worker on the shop floor that should produce 10 parts an hour, I think it's always quite interesting and important for the worker that he can see a dashboard. I should produce 10. I have produced 11. I produced 9 or 8. And I think then the most important topic, and that is what you said with predictive maintenance, why have I produced 9 or 8? Was the machine down? Has the machine not the full speed? Was my raw materials not supplied? Was the forklift down? All this type of things. But I think data visualization and bring this data to the user, to the worker, it's one of the as very, very important steps. What do you think about
Exa-
that?
e- Exactly. No, completely agree. So that was one of the things that we also focused on was when we built out our application that goes onto the shop floor. So if it goes onto a desktop, a tablet, or onto a mobile phone, what we did is we tried to gamify the whole experience a little bit. So the person who's looking at what they're meant to be doing, they're told, okay, on average, you're doing 6 per hour. So when they're running at 4 per hour, they start to say, okay, why am I running at 4? Why have I not done as many jobs? So instead of saying, this is the minimum you have to get to, it rather says this is what you normally do, and now you can see that you're under it. And it creates a bit of a competitive nature where you say, okay, well, I'm not performing as well as I normally do. And then all that information can go upstream to the manager, and they can go and look and say, okay, this person is struggling today. Let me go and understand why. And exactly what you said, it could be something like an external issue, something to do with a piece of machinery or a downtime issue, or it could be an internal issue, and then you just go and have a conversation with that employee. So just by getting the data out really does allow for a better decision making from your management staff. It allows them to understand where there might be bottlenecks and how that affects the rest of the stream. Because one small workstation can have a huge impact downstream for the output of that product. And without being able to identify that bottleneck, you really are in the dark just saying, why did we only output 6 today when we should have output 10? If you can identify the pain, you can then apply the bandage.
Exactly. And like you said, most likely already on time or at least much earlier when I'm not catching the data and displaying it. So it's as well a good time to reduce or even avoid downtime in my production lines. So that's
Exactly.
great.
I think that a lot of companies fall into the trap where they only realize later what the issue was, and they come back and they look at it a bit retrospectively. But in reality, when you have real-time data, you have the opportunity to actually fix that problem live. And exactly what you mentioned, you sort it out right there and then things go back to full capacity.
Yeah, that is good. And distribution model. I know you guys have as well a distribution module, right? That is your, I don't want to say second, but your other module that you have in the system. So how is that really working with streamlining processes, real-time inventory management?
Exactly. So we work in both the manufacturing and distribution space. And in the distribution space, what we really try to focus in on is just understanding better what is happening within that operation so that the distributor can start looking at their supply chain more holistically. So what we started to realize was that the majority of distributors are using either 3PLs or their own native warehouse that they're managing, and they struggle to kind of operate and understand exactly what's happening with my stock, where it is, where it should be going. So they're tracking this across spreadsheets. The spreadsheets aren't well interlinked, and the smallest slip of a finger can change a 1,200 unit order into a 12,000 unit order. So the first thing we do is we bring structure to their business by allowing them to use our system. It will flag small issues and make sure that when you're entering in information, it's done in a structured way. But more than that, what we also allow them to do is to start actually understanding what's happening across the entire supply chain. So at the warehouse stage, if they have multi-site warehouses, either their own warehouses or the 3PLs we discussed, they can see those live stock counts inside their ERP system. They know, which of my units do I have where. They can set rules about being able to transfer units in between warehouses or to customers. They can start to input information about max and minimum levels that they're going to hold of each stock. And then the system starts to understand intelligently what's going on, and it will start to empower the procurement team. So you're running low of a particular item, you've moved it from one warehouse to another. That warehouse is now below its minimum set threshold, and the procurement team is told, okay, you need to procure more of this item for this particular warehouse. So we try and make intelligent decisions on behalf of the distributor to let them know, you need to actually start these processes following the rule set that they gave us. The other part of this is that we try and make it easier for the actual procurement teams to understand their supply chain. So as a distributor, you rely so heavily on your suppliers, and these can be both local and international suppliers. And with supply chain, there's a bunch of complexity that comes around, not just pricing, but it's delivery rates, failure rates, how quickly they deliver, what is the distance between these 2 points? Am I exposed to different parts of the supply chain? Are they got multiple warehouses they depend on? So what we do is we try and empower them with the data they do have access to make better decisions. So for example, we KPI every supplier that you procure through our system, and we collect about 124 data points on your supplier. So later on during the demo, I'll show you a short section where we're basically giving an Uber-like rating to each one of your suppliers, so you know how good they are and if they're getting better or worse. And in that way, if you are procuring the same item from multiple suppliers, you can start to say, maybe I should actually look at one of my other suppliers who's got a higher KPI rating for this item. And it gets even more clever because we don't just KPI the supplier and how well they supply. We actually look at the items that the supplier supplies. So you could be a supplier for me and you give me item 1 and item 2. For item 1, you're really good at supplying, and item 2, you're very bad. The system will start to recognize that, and it will look for alternative suppliers for item 2 somewhere else who might have a better rating. So it's not just how well you perform as a supplier, but how well you perform as a supplier for that particular SKU. And we've seen distributors, really change their entire supply chain health by being able to have suppliers that are more reliable, they have less price discrepancies, and they have a lower failure rate of whatever they're being supplied by that supplier.
That is a really interesting topic as well. Thanks for bringing that up. I know that from my time as a supplier capacity manager, task force manager, don't only look to the supplier, look into the product. Possible, I'm really good in supplying product A, but I was forced or I made a wrong decision to supplying product B. Don't kick everyone out with only one decision point. So that's an important topic. One more question before we come, I think, to the most interesting point for everyone, system demo. How is it with, I don't want to say integration, but interaction with subsystems? Let's say, how can suppliers send ASN information into your system, or how can you interact with an example, an SAP system if I need to send an advanced shipment notice or stock information? How are you guys handling that?
So what we do during our kind of initial scoping phase is we'll sit down with all of our customers and we'll say, let's have a look at your entire software stack. So let's look at everything that you're using, everything that you need to interact with. And we pay really close attention to the software stack because we understand that as an ERP, you don't operate in a vacuum. Very often, the ERP needs to be connected to third-party systems, be it simple things like Shopify, or it could be more complicated, legacy softwares. Like, for example, the stock management system of the 3PL that you're using could be 20 years old. So when we're doing that initial customer scoping, we'll start to explore that and say, what is the list of softwares that we need to interact with? What are the processes that are happening with those softwares? And we try and find things that we can replace straight away. So if our ERP can replace them outright, we'll try and move in that direction. But for the things we can't replace, we'll start to look at integrations, as you mentioned. We'll start to look at, does it have an API? If it doesn't have an API, is there a way we can get this data in and out using something like an Excel sheet? So we'll from our side, take responsibility and explore every possible solution to making sure that your software stack is fully integrated and working as it should. And I think that's a really important part of ERP implementation is some people get halfway down the implementation and then they realize that one of the intrinsic softwares that their partner uses doesn't work with their software stack. And they end up being in a situation where you're trying to solve that while you're halfway through implementation doesn't work. So we like to do a lot of digging beforehand and really understand, what are the skeletons in the closet that we're going to be dealing with along the course of this implementation.
That makes absolutely sense. I think we can come back to it a little bit in point 6. Now I'm quite excited and hope everyone else as well that you show us a short interactive system walkthrough. Again, thanks for preparing that. Yeah, your platform. Please show us the system.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and share. Let me know if you can see my screen now.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Perfect. And so I'm just going to show you a couple of things we've kind of touched on during this conversation. And before I even get into it, I just want to kind of show you how we focus on the UI side to make this more usable. So as I mentioned, we really did a lot of research into consumer-based software products. And we said the problem with most ERPs is that the training just takes so long to understand how to get everywhere. And what we did is we tried to simplify that. So you'll see that we've got a module-based system. And what's really important here is that everything is designed to be easy to navigate. So you can get into each of your modules through the front end here, but you can also quickly get to different sections of the platform simply by hovering over a particular module, and then you can navigate directly to a certain section. So what we try to do is cut down the time spent trying to navigate around the platform, but rather focus in on how do you get someone from where they want to be straight there, and then be able to perform the tasks that they need to. So I don't want to run through the whole platform because, as you know, ERPs are a behemoth when it comes to doing a full run through, but I'll talk to some of the sections that we've already looked at. And one of those ones that's really interesting is if I look at our warehouse module. So as I mentioned, we have the ability to build out very comprehensive warehouse functionality. And that includes the ability to do things like multi-site warehousing. We can go multi-levels deep into those warehouses, and we create a tree structure that allows you to actually build out exactly how your warehouse functions in the real world. So we don't limit you in terms of having a set amount of level of depth you can go. You can have individual sites, multiple warehouses on those sites. You can have locations, sub-locations. For example, if you want to go to a bin location or a sub-bin location, we don't limit you. We rather allow you the ability to go as deeply as you need to. And if I just go into our procurement, kind of leading on from our warehousing, there was something else that we touched on that I think is really important, and that is our supply KPI. So if I go and look at a list of suppliers, what I can do is I can start to understand how well these suppliers actually perform. So if I go ahead and open up the supplier, I'm greeted with their supplier dashboard. And I mentioned to you about the KPI system, which is down here. And it's kind of like an Uber rating in a lot of ways. We give you one number that represents the entire supplier, but that number is broken down below. And it's made up of the delivery score, the quality score, the quantity score, costing score, and responsiveness. So the delivery score measures things like how quickly do they deliver, or how accurately do they deliver to the delivery date? How much variance do we see around that delivery date? And how does that delivery compare to other suppliers? The quality score will look at things like how often do the supplied units break, or how often are they returned by customers? Are they being rejected by my receivables team and who are saying they're just not high quality enough? This all impacts your quality score. Quantity score looks at things like how accurately are they delivering? Do they deliver the right quantity? When I request quantity, do they meet those requests? Is there any variance in terms of what my receivable team receives versus what I was quoted against? Costing score looks at the usual things like the actual cost, the cost variance, the cost compared to other competitors, and then a responsiveness score. This is how quickly they get back to you when you send out an RFQ, or how quickly they respond when there's an issue. And then finally, we have a confidence interval score here at the bottom, which is our way of saying how confident we are in the number that we are supplying. So we like to understand, okay, this is a large data set of over 120 data points. We don't know for certain that the supply KPI is exactly 84.6, but this is how confident we are that it is. And then to the right here, what you'll see is we start to graph this. So over time, what you'll start to see is the supply getting better, worse, or staying the same? And this just gives you a visual cue to understand, how well are they performing as a supplier. What's really great is you can also start to do comparisons. So if I go into our procurement dashboard, what I'm going to be able to do is now I'm going to go ahead and select some of our suppliers. So what I can do is I can select 2 or 3 suppliers quickly. Let's go and select, see if so I've selected 2 different suppliers here, and then I've got my average KPI of all my suppliers. And what I can straight away see is that the dark blue supplier, which is alpha, is slightly lower than my ACDC supplier. And this is a really great comparison tool because they might be supplying me with the same item. And I can straight away understand, who's performing better, who should I maybe be looking at in the future. The other part of this that I think would be interesting to look at is in our manufacturing execution system. So I'm just going to go open up our production plan section. Here are our production plans. And as I mentioned, we actually handle the entire MES inside the ERP. So what you're viewing here is just all the job cards across our entire operation currently. So we can see it's end of day. So we've got a bunch of completed job cards. At the top here, we can see the workstations. So these are all the individual workstations with the job cards associated below them. And I can straight away start to see, how are these workstations doing? Are they in the not ready state? Are they complete? Are they in progress? And I can start to look across all my workstations and understand maybe where I am having bottlenecks. I can, of course, filter this information and look at particular works orders or production orders. I can look at who's on each of these workstations and how long they've been working on them. But this gives me a nice holistic understanding of what the job cards look like and how well they are performing. So this is part of our MES system, and it's a really great visual tool. On each of your actual shop floor workstations, be it a tablet, a phone, or a desktop, they'll have their own job card. They'll occupy the entire screen and they'll be able to interact with it. So all that information is flowing up screen for your managers to kind of interact with and see. I think another part of the system that'll be worth having a brief look at is inside our warehouse. This is more of the AI side, and it's where we're starting to kind of get really excited, is we've built out something called ArcAI. And what ArcAI is a suggestive tool that does analysis across your entire operation. So what you'll first notice is it's loading right now because it's analyzing all of the different data across manufacturing, procurement, sales, inventory. It's basically going in and ingesting everything at this right now and saying, okay, let me go and calculate all the information into what I should be procuring and what I should be making. So in the top left, you'll see there's a buy and a make section. The buy section represents procurement. The make section represents manufacturing. So what it's doing right now on the buy side is it's going and calculating across all my SKUs. It's looking at what should I be purchasing if I want to procure for the next month? How long do my supplies take? Which supplies have been good and I should be ordering from? And it's going and running calculations on every single SKU throughout the entire platform. So let me go and select a warehouse. Once it's run, go select, and now it's going to go and continue with that calculation. And what we'll see shortly is we will actually see what the suggestion is from the system for this procurement member. And the idea is that we're really trying to remove some of the calculation that came with procurement teams and manufacturing teams, where they had to go and work out an estimate of what they should be purchasing or making. Instead, we give them this suggestion, and they use the suggestion to then go ahead and actually procure, actually make. Sorry, as you know, with a live demo on a demo site, it can be a little bit finicky. So let's just give it another second.
No, honestly, I can highlight, I think, especially because it's a demo system, your system
Yeah.
is really quick. And I mean, let's think about the opposite of things, right? Using 10 Excel files, combining them over, I'm not sure, some Gantt charts or whatever takes much longer with a much higher risk of failure. So
Yeah. So we've just run this entire system I think in this demo system, we have about 12,000 different SKUs that we've gone and basically done analysis on. And if you can imagine, I'm going to start running through the data quickly, you'll see just how comprehensive this is. So it's first of all done the basic analysis, looked at the total stock quantity. It's then looked at the actual outgoing stock. So if it's a product, it's looked at what stock's being sold. But if it's an item or an assembly, it's started to look at what stock is going into manufacturing. Then it has something called expected outgoing. This is an analysis on what it projects will be used in the next month across manufacturing and across sales. We have a manual forecast tab here. So you can actually manually enter, if you think there's going to be an exceptionally high usage of a certain item, or you're going to sell a lot of a certain item, you can manually enter that information in. And then we have actual incoming, which is a measurement of how much stock is currently inbound into your operation. So this looks at your supply chain and says, how many of these items am I expected to receive? Or how many have I traditionally ordered in this month? There's some expected in-stock quantities here, min stock quantity, which you set, max stock quantity, the reorder level, days to reorder. So this is a suggestion from us. We're saying to you, how many days till you need to actually reorder this item? You'll see for some items, it'll be 0 days, which means we're up to stock. Some will be 500 days. So, we're kind of prepared for the long haul. There's a reorder ETA, which we've calculated. So we've gone ahead and we've estimated what day you should actually be reordering and then what quantity you should be reordering. And this is across the entire inventory. So you can just see that there are some of these pieces of stock I don't need to order for, some I do. And it just gives you really a great indication of, as a procurement member, I could use this and go, okay, instead of having to go through each line item, the system's gone and suggestively created a procurement list for me. And I can go ahead and create this order plan. I can select which of these I do want to order. I can, it's just a suggestion at the end of the day. So I could actually ignore some of the suggestions. I can go and order more, order less. And then these automatically go into the RFQ process on our procurement side. This also works in the make section. So on the make side, what it's telling me here is it's telling me in my manufacturing operation how many of these I should be making. So the same as procurement, it's gone and looked at estimated sales. It's done analysis on seasonal change and your seasonal sales forecast. It's done an analysis on your supply chain and what stock you currently have on hand that maybe you should be using. And it's done all these calculations to then suggest you, okay, this is how much you should be producing. So I can see for the vast majority of these, it's suggesting I don't need to manufacture it, but I should be manufacturing 2 of these. And this has traditionally all been done, using Excel spreadsheets or manual calculations. What we've done is we've just internalized that. We look at far more data points and we just empower those managers to really use it as a guide in what they're doing. So I think those are kind of 3 of the more interesting parts I wanted to just show you of the system. Of course, we cover everything from our entire sales module, a comprehensive warehousing module, an entire procurement engine, our manufacturing and manufacturing execution system. We have a fulfillment section. We handle all of your financials. We have human resources. I mean, everything from the ability to track and trace leave days, understand how it affects capacity, all the way to, really understanding what your workforce looks like. And we do all the documentation storage that you can do internally in our ERP. So yeah, at some point, if anyone's ever interested, reach out. We can do a full kind of ERP demo and run through the entire system and show you everything else about it.
Yeah, I only can suggest that. As I say, please like, follow, share with us, follow Arcsoft on LinkedIn and other channels or us from Ada. Like and share our content. And I can only put out ask for a demo. I mean, there was on the top left a small thing like blueprint. It is really interesting. Sam showed me, I think, around 30 minutes, and I know possible 1% about it, but it's a great tool that supports you with blueprint and all the type of things. So I only can highlight again. First, I think performance. The system, it's a demo system, whatever. I think it's quite quick, especially from other products that I know on the market. And performance is an important topic. And the same like the second thing, like you said, your UI, your user experience, your UX build up, it's an important thing. And both, I think, leads to user acceptance. What is the most important thing? You can possibly build the smartest system in the world. if the user is not accepting it, the system is worth nothing. And I really like to highlight that you guys put a lot of work and thoughts into that. And I think that's really helpful if somebody wants to implement the system, that you support their users. So that's great. And thanks for showing us around, Sam. I really appreciate that.
No
Uh,
worries.
so next topic is integration with Ada International's consulting services. So why we are here together, Sam and I, besides that we most likely like to talk and show our products and like to talk to each other. Of course, it has a reason. Like Sam said, they have already a really good base in mainly South Africa and in Europe, where systems are integrated. We talked about, let me name it, market entry in the US. How can Arcflow implement and find customers in the US market? I mean, and now most people know that is what we do as Ada International. It started with guiding German companies into the US market. That is quite different than the European and as well African market, from my experience, as well different than the Asian market. A really exciting market. I think a market with great potential, that is there, and even more potential that will come up. And that is how we really came together. So the implementation, like Sam said, will be and should be done from the Arcsoft team. They will support you. What can we do from Ada side? First, we want to attract customers together. That is why we do the podcast. That is how we go out. As an example, I will be at a convention tomorrow where hopefully a lot of people will be, and hopefully I meet some people that needs a new ERP system. So then they are for Sam. um, the same is with our services. What we are really doing is optimizing and supporting production flows. A lot of shop floor management, supply chain improvements, um, training and implemented system is one step of the big picture, right? So that is as well how Arcsoft and we come together. As I say, potential synergies, Sam. What do you think about that?
For sure. I mean, yeah, I think I kind of resonated with exactly what you said. We met, 5 odd months ago, and just straight away saw the synergies of being able to build out this alongside you guys with our US entry. You guys work with a lot of the larger manufacturers. You have a deep understanding of exactly what needs to be kind of attended to in the space. And from our side, what we're trying to do is work alongside consultants to better understand what their customer base is looking for. At the end of the day, the best thing to do is get this into people's hands, and then they get an understanding of what we've built and what we're trying to achieve. And then we get feedback and we build, and it gets better and better. So I think that was definitely a big focus. I also think that Ada has a great history and a great understanding of, I mean, you mentioned it yourself, you've been in the industry for a very long time. And that kind of information you can't pull out of anything. You can't synthesize it. It's really just the ability to actually communicate. This is what we've experienced over the last 15 years. And we take that information in and then we use it to improve and make our platform more compliant or more aligned with the end user. So yeah, we think it's an exciting partnership, and we really do look forward to working alongside more of your customers and with your customer base into building this out.
Yeah, that's a great topic, and that is one of our strategies as well. Like you said, we work a lot with the big ones, right? Um,
Yeah.
that most likely use systems that are not even thinking about integrating into small or medium businesses. So and we are all, my whole team is really excited now to have a partner that we suggest to our customers, small, medium, and say, okay, I know you are stuck with your old ERP. I know you are possibly scared or comprehensive about the cost, about the efforts to integrate them. But I think we found a good partner that has a good solution to support you in these things and becoming more secure, more safe, more modern. And that's exactly like you said. Another topic I have not thought about it till now is, and that is really interesting, your integration model. Um, what sometimes I still don't understand with software as a service when I talk to companies that tell me, okay, we need an implementation timeline from 12 months. and the implementation costs are, I don't know, $250,000. It's 1 million, 2 million. For me, that's not really software as a service. Of course, there are costs. That is not the question. Of course, there's time. Uh, but I know that you guys have a little bit a different model. Let us know a little bit about that, please.
Sure. So, kind of exactly what you mentioned. I think what we saw is that so many third-party implementers, basically what happens is them, the software provider, and the customer all have different wants out of the project. They aren't aligned. The customer wants a working ERP for as cheap as possible. The third party implementer wants to spend as much time on the project because they get paid per hour. So they're in a situation where very often, they're not that impacted by the project running longer. It's very difficult for them to even estimate out how long the project will be. And then you've got the software provider who is almost hands off in a lot of senses. So they're not part of the direct implementation. And what we try to do is we say, okay, how do we make it better that everyone is aligned and trying to achieve the same goal? And in doing so, ideally, we speed up the project and we make the project far cheaper. So what our main focus is that during the initial, customer vetting, technical vetting, we spend a lot of time with our internal team actually understanding exactly how long this is going to take. And we identify things like roadblocks or issues that are going to come up, and we spend extra time on those to try and shorten the amount of effort that goes into them. So what will often happen in implementation is we'll know, okay, there's going to be issues around the data around their bill of materials. So we'll allocate extra resources to speed up that part of it. And we try and ensure that we can do the implementation as efficiently as possible while making sure it is successful. So our implementations generally range in the period of about 1 to 6 months. We try and keep it really as short as possible because we are motivated to make sure that the implementation goes well and is done efficiently, because at the end of the day, we are financing a part of that implementation technically. We're using our own internal team, we're using our own internal resources. And I think that's where we're unique, is that we see ourselves as partners during this implementation, not as a third party who just sits on the side waiting for our software to be implemented. We're really there with you in the trenches. We're trying to do it as quickly as possible. It's costing us money as much as it is you. And in that way, we're all aligned in getting the project up and running.
Yeah, that's a great topic. Thanks for explaining that. And um, as I always say to all of our customers, of course, it is that the customer needs to work with us. We cannot do it alone. But like you said, 1 to 6 months, I think it's a timeline that is impressive if everybody works together and you get an implementation of a well-versed ERP WMS distribution system. So that's really quite a good time and takes a lot of stress and strains out of your internal teams. So um, thanks for sharing that as well. Um, do you have let's name it, case study or success story where the integration really led to measurable improvements? I mean, you don't need to talk company names. I know how it is, but give us an example, please. That's a quite good topic. So that's not work from home. That is manage from home. Possibly we have a new concept. No, but it's an important thing. I agree. I mean, I'm traveling a lot, right? I don't want to monitor my team or whatever, but as well, I don't want to call every 5 minutes if I need to know a number because they are all busy and have something to do. So checking your numbers from wherever you are, um, it's a really important topic these days. So that's good. Um, Future of AI, manufacturing, distribution. So what is your stance about it, your perspective, Sam? That makes totally sense. I always say to people, what we need is ambassadors that explain the concept of AI. AI is mainly, unfortunately and happily, becoming a buzzword. Like we had lean management, like we had the cloud. It's a buzzword, unfortunately. And I think we need to ambassadors really to explain people what is AI. Do I need to be scared that AI taking my job? I think most likely not. It's part for a different episode. But what you just said, it's a really, really important topic. People need really to understand that and how it can support your operations. I mean, nobody wants to do the same task every day, 10 times over and over. If you can have a small part of software, small is now relatively, but in general, that supports you with it. I share the same perspective like you. And I think there are some quite exciting um, topics coming. So short Q&A session. We answered a lot of questions that I received from customers. I'm not sure if you have some that you'd like to share, but we talked about implementation timeline, important thing, between 1 and 6 months in most cases. Why? It's not a one fits all, but 1 to 6 months, I think it's still really impressive, especially if we talk about other solutions at the market. The implementation model, quite interesting. I think it's quite worth to talk about it with Sam and team, how they handle implementation, how they are part of your implementation, and not only an exclamation mark providing a product and let you alone. That is really interesting. We talked about the AI integration, how it really can help. So any other questions that you receive from your customers or potential customers that you like to share? I cannot agree more. And it attracts most likely new employees. I mean, we all know that we are in a shift with the workforce, right? And the person that is managing your Excel list today is possibly not anymore there next year. Even more complicated with legacy systems. Possibly you don't even find anyone that can write that code anymore because it's somewhat outdated. I agree with you. I think I need to wait another 2 or 3 years till I can excite someone with my MS-DOS and basic skills again. But then it's vintage. Then it's becoming cool again. um, so as I say, key points really. This episode, please reach out to us, reach out to Sam, reach out to me or as Arcsoft and Ada. we are more than happy to show you more about the system, discuss the different models, support you in your journey to becoming more modern, being AI driven, and get a new ERP distribution solution. How you really can more learn about us is go to our websites. We will share it as well in the recording. We will add it in the recording. Go on our LinkedIn pages. I mean, feel always free to reach out to me. I know Sam is the same way. Find us on LinkedIn. So overall, as I say, please subscribe to our podcast, the Logistics Lounge, follow Arcsoft and Ada on LinkedIn, and let us know for future topics that you like to see. I mean, I think, Sam, I hope I'm putting not that word into your mouth. We are more than happy to do another episode if you have some special interest on a deeper part of that system or on a different section. We are really looking forward to, as I think we need to do that in our episode talking about AI in general, not only in manufacturing. I know you have a quite extensive knowledge base there and experience. And as I say, I see us a little bit as well as ambassadors to show people not to be scared and be excited about that topics. Yeah, thanks for joining. I give the last words to you, if you like, Sam. Okay, last topic. So contract us for a new system. I like to fly down to Cape Town and visit Sam. No, I'm just kidding. That is not the reason. um, thanks again, Sam. I wish you a really nice afternoon. And again, thanks for your time. Thanks everybody for listening. Talk later.